Are you aware of the concept of evolution? I just finished watching the movie Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I tend to have a recency bias when it comes to my favorite movies. I feel like this year, this movie ranks in my top 5 of movies I've watched that came out in 2024 that I feel like are amazing. I had never watched the trilogy. I didn't watch Dawn or Rising before I watched Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And one of the beautiful things was in the first trilogy, Caesar's story came to an end, from what I understood. So this one picks up from that 300 years later. And as an introduction to the series, for me, I feel like this was a perfect movie for me. Like, there are certain parts I didn't understand in terms of the exposition when they were trying to say Caesar's teachings. Caesar used to talk about these things, and I didn't know who Caesar was. But then I sort of understood that there were 3 movies prior, plus all the other movies that have been made about the Planet of the Apes. So watching this, it was interesting. The film opens up with 3 apes running up, trying to catch some eagles, and in that they already set up the theme of the movie. They already set up the ones, you get immersed into this world, and it's amazing what CGI can do with these guys. Like, you're like, yo, how are these people? This is motion capture. It's quite interesting for me. Like, I think that has always been the thing that attracted me to the series, in terms of just how realistic they feel, how human the apes feel. They don't feel like animals, but also like they don't feel like humans, And there's something that when I used to watch the trailers and even reviews about the other Planet of the Apes movies, where it just felt so real. And in this movie, they do the same. The movie essentially sets up the theme of the main character, Noah, how his journey and his wants, the main thing that he wants is to earn his father's respect. He wants to get an ego for himself, and we set off on this journey. And then in the first hour, we're just building up in terms of this new relation, this new world, like what these guys have become, what has happened to the humans. Apparently, humans have lost everything that made them human, and now have turned back into being primal animals. And apes have become the most cleverest of them all. And as you go through it, they interact with a human now called echoes, which I still don't understand why they're called echoes. So if someone can help me in the comment section, please do. I tried Googling why are humans called echo in this movie. I couldn't find it. And then from there, they engage in a different group of apes who are hunting the human, but also hunt other apes. So that was a unique twist, which I wasn't expecting to see. But then it felt for me like they were using gorillas. So I thought maybe, this means there's a section of like gorillas who are hunting little apes, but that turned out not to be true. They all just fall under the same species, As you go through the movie, you see the use of technology. The world looks dilapidated, like it's gone back. It's the future, but it feels like human technology is of the past. And when these vile gorillas come in and take over, they take Noah's clan and essentially enslave them, and it just goes back to that. And then they enslave them and they take them somewhere, and then Noah now has to go on a journey to try and save his clan. And one thing I liked about it is they follow, when you read how to write a script, they follow it to a T. Just put obstacle after obstacle in front of your main protagonist, and how everything happens to him. When he first encounters the human, she makes him break his egg, right? And then after breaking his egg, he's going to hunt another one. And then when he's going to get that's what leads to the gorillas finding his clan and destroying it and killing his father, which puts a lot of weight on one single character to the full. You're like, damn, I feel you, bro. You were trying to do the right thing, but the wrong thing happened, and in a way, it feels like it's his fault, even though these people are already on their way. And as the movie progresses, we learn about the old movie. So the movie tries to tie it down as we are learning about Caesar and how Caesar used to say humans and apes can live together. And that's a question. But I think that one thing that will always happen is, as long as a superior a superior being feels threatened, then they'll do everything they can to squash the smaller ones. I think that's just been nature's way or the way of life. Like, in order to maintain what is, you have to stop others from getting in, which for me is starting to make sense, because I used to ask myself, why do big nations, why do big people, why do things happen this way? But it felt to me like in this movie it explains that theory of, as long as someone feels threatened in their position, then they'll do whatever they can to destroy what's coming after, and we can never truly live in harmony, as long as, what they say about two predators living in the same jungle is almost impossible. And I think that's the question where the trilogy asked, and they successfully answered that, yeah, it's not happening anytime soon, because someone always want to have power over the next. And then when we move on from this concept, as we're learning about Caesar's teachings, we're learning about the new world and the things that are happening, they meet this new girl, Maya, but they call her Nova, which pays homage to the other three movies. She plays an interesting role in that she's following these apes, but she has a goal, and that goal is hidden from us. The audience is hidden from the characters that she's interacting with. But then they are all going to the same spot because she wants the technology of where they're going, and the apes want something. So there's a space where, call it a storage facility or something, that they are all going to, where there are guns, there are things like this. But as we get to the place, and as the movie moves into the second hour and we get where they were going, it sort of mimics what happened in War of the Planet of the Apes, where these people are in an environment, in a jail, and they're being used as slaves. Whereas the difference is, in War of the Planet of the Apes, the goal was to build a wall to defend against other humans when they come. In this one, it's more of they're trying to open this gate from the outside in, and it's bolted and locked. So when we get there, we realize, oh shit, it's another enslavement camp, and that's what's happening to this clan. So in there, like, the storytelling gets a little bit weird, because we have another human interaction, and we realize humans are still alive, and they're still trying to find a way of coming back, and fighting to move away from it being a Planet of the Apes. And you want the humans to succeed because the humans have been obliterated. And do we get through some exposition in there in terms of what happened and how we've come to this? And then we meet my favorite, he's a villain, but my favorite character, the king. And he's like, one of my favorite lines, which I opened this video with, do you know about the concept of evolution? That line just kills me. But we get the sense of this mad king who wants to rule, and who wants technology, who wants this thing. But for me, like, the movie, I understand that right now as humans we just have a bleak view of the future, like everything is just gonna go to trash. I would have thought that it would have been more impactful, maybe, but then you'd also have to look at the source material, right? Like, the apes have to develop. So if apes are getting human kind of knowledge and human kind of skills, their technology should develop rather than recede. But in this film, it feels like their technology recedes, so it doesn't really progress. Like, they don't progress technologically wise, and they're trying to get into this base to get this technology we used from 300 years ago. So, like, imagine at this point in time, if we could go back 300 years ago and try to use the technology that they had at that time in these times, it's likely not going to work, which you'd assume 300 years from now will be the same concept and situation. So the guys end up finding a way to get into the bunker, and they see these guns. The apes see what life was like 300 years before, how they used to be kept in cages. A lot of these things, they play on history, and I guess we can only write about things we know. I remember when I used to study, and you'd have these visuals of black people being kept in cages and people looking at them as if in a zoo. So it's like when you go in those moments, it reminds you of how terrible our history is, but also how messed up human beings can be. And these apes, they understand pictures, they don't really understand words, and they can see what's happening. And that also draws that question: can apes and humans live together? Is there such a thing? And I think that's a question that even us as humans, I think we ask ourselves, right? Like with issues of racism, issues of this, is there a situation in which we can all live in unity? And that answer still remains unknown, because anytime we think we have it, life just goes in a different direction. So overall, the story then continues into where they find these guns, and then Nova finds a gun and she kills an ape, and they realize how powerful guns are. But then the crazy thing for me is, so 300 years from now, these apes didn't know there were guns, they didn't know that these things existed, which is a little bit weird, but it is what it is. She takes a thing from there which they used to try and communicate with each other. So you're telling me after 300 years of living on this planet, those are questions where it's just there to push the narrative forward, I suppose. But the main thing that I thought, if they wanted to set up part 2 or part 3, was they came up with a cure or something like that. But you never know where the story is gonna go and how things are gonna work out, if they're gonna make a part 2 and part 3. It's Hollywood at the end of the day. Overall, the movie for me, in terms of production design, in terms of cinematography, it's a tough movie to break down, because whilst there's a lot of realism, you also understand there's a lot of CGI that they're playing with, right? So some of the walls you can tell is blue screen and green screen, some of the things that they're doing just to render it and make it make sense. I would say in terms of the cinematography, I do believe they used a spherical and then they converted it into 2.35 ratio, because in the theater I was in, it wasn't filling up the whole screen. I didn't watch this in IMAX, so I don't even know how it looks like on an IMAX screen. But in the normal screen I was in, it felt either they were shot on an anamorphic or they shot it spherical, and then they just put those black bars in it and cut off the top and the bottom parts. The framing, it was good. You get to see the emotions of the apes. You get to feel the human acting of them. The camera didn't move unexpectedly. It was all paced. Everything made sense in terms of lighting. They used a lot of day exterior shots, so that could have, I don't really know how much in terms of CGI affects lighting and how much it can be affected in post as well. But it felt right for everything. It felt you could feel the characters. Like when they first spot zebras, you feel how the characters are looking at zebras. And then when humans pop up, you feel that in the chase sequences, nothing felt weird. It didn't feel like the camera was doing some weird moves that it doesn't have to do. And the dangers felt also real dangerous, which is something that when Noah is falling, you're like, oh shit, it feels like you're falling with him. So that in that aspect, I feel like their cinematography was done quite well. The production design, the way where when with the eagles, like in the eagle house, how it was built, the structure of Noah's house, that was great. The color palette, I think there's a lot of green, a lot of brown, and then fire. So the tools that we use, the props, they had this prop with this, which pays after watch, because what I did is I ended up going to watch the other trilogy. The Sparky thing with those Zep people, it's a homage to what happened in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where that guy had the thing that you can spark others with, and that's what they were using. So fundamentally, it's a great movie. It's a great watch. I encourage you. This is the type of movie which I think, to really enjoy it, you want to watch it on the big screen, and I encourage anybody who wants to go watch this movie there. If you're a fan, if you've watched the other 3, this will not disappoint you. Having watched the other 3, I think all of them were phenomenal movies, and I wish I'd watched them in the theater at the time, but I didn't watch them for some reason. And I think that they're pretty dope, pretty amazing. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And one last time, do you know about the concept of evolution?
Are you familiar with the concept of Evolution.